Great. Well, thank you so much, Barbara, and thanks for the introduction. Really, what the most important thing to me about being in customer marketing and customer reference, customer advocacy, whatever the many hats you or your team wears, is that customer programming is a two-way street. And we can go ahead to the next slide. And what I mean by that is customer marketing is truly a partnership. It should be a two-way street with your customer. And that is how I believe we can keep customers the most engaged, the most excited to participate in co-marketing with our teams. And that's what we call it. We call it co-marketing because it's not one-sided, it's a two-way street. And really, we want the goal of co-marketing and referencing to be a partnership so that both the customer, maybe it's an individual, maybe it's in an organization, a group of champions that you're working with, are truly the hero of the story, right? It shouldn't be, this is what our company is doing with our customer. It should be, this is what our customer is doing. This is how they're solving for the challenges of their own customers. And hey, we're just a supporting cast of characters here. And really we want to do is bring attention to our customers' success and find out what's important to them. And we want to concentrate on how we can find out, hey, Miss or Mr. Customer, what are your brand and marketing objectives? What are your goals? How can we help you meet them with the co-marketing activities that we can bring to the table? Can we help you really talk about this new brand launch you're doing, and how did our organization support you to do that with the products and services that you're using from our organization? Really ask your customers, sit down with them and find out if you have the bandwidth, right? Because I know we're all really busy, but try and find that time so you can see what did they hope to get out of co-marketing, being a sales reference. Do they want accolades? Do they have goals for themselves? Do they have, internal OKRs that they need to meet? And how can some of the things we're asking of them help them to achieve their own goals, their organization goals? And this can really help get things approved, help things move along more quickly, and leave your customer happy at the end of the day, because all those things can really have an impact in the long term. It could help impact pipeline. It can help impact deals that your sales team is trying to close down the line. And it can just really create a good rapport between you and your customer so that they value your partnership. And we can skip to the next slide here. And then when we're talking about what's in it for your customer and how you can bring value to them, how you can be a partner, you really want to demonstrate that and tell your customer the value that you're going to bring to them. And there are the intangibles and the tangibles, I like to say. The tangibles are things that we know about, right? We might give our customers awards for participating in advocacy. We might give them badges for being sales referenced several times. We might be able to have them speakers at a tentpole industry event. We might be able to help them promote themselves personally. Maybe amplifying that they chose this transformative technology and telling that story will help them receive a promotion internally. And they're also able to kind of meet with their peers at industry events that we enable them to participate in. And those are the tangibles, the things they're able to really see and feel. But then there's those intangibles, really positioning our customers as thought leaders, highlighting and celebrating their innovation, helping them learn and helping them move the needle, maybe in their own careers, but also their team's professional needle as well, right? Because we're helping them to demonstrate, amplify, and celebrate their success. And we want to be able to partner with our customers, keep them engaged by showing them value, being a partner, and keeping that two-way street flowing. So we can go to the next slide. And these are really the things that we want to make sure are the key takeaways when we're thinking about how can we keep our customer engaged, how can we bring value and really have that true partnership. And I'll go back to some of the points I earlier touched upon, right? Make sure that your customer is the hero of the story. It's not about us, it's about them. Show the value that you're going to bring back to them, both the intangibles and the tangibles, right? Those awards, those plaques, but also driving thought leadership, showcasing them as a thought leader in the industry. And get organized, have programs, have tracking mechanisms, have a community, have tools. Maybe you build them your own, maybe you purchase them, maybe it's a Google Sheet, but have tools that track to show that you can always report back the value that you're bringing both internally and externally. And Barbara, I'll let you touch on the other two key takeaways here.
Hi, sorry again for the issue with connectivity. I just want to make a point of there is an assessment tool out there where you can actually measure your maturity on customer experience. And I did put the link in the group chat for everyone to take a look at and try it out, see where you measure up on your customer experience. And I also want to point out that IDC just came out with a customer experience key finding that I'll also put in the chat later, a link to that report. I don't know if you could show the first slide, Dana, of our presentation, but there are some key findings that I think are very important that we should all consider as part of customer experience. But you'll receive this deck and we'll review it at that time. At this time, we are ready to introduce a power duo team. Next, we have Dana Alvarenga and Kim Plack discussing how to amplify your program. Dana has 12 plus years of experience in the technology industry within sales training, sales management, customer education, and success. She has been a pioneer throughout her career, taking on new positions, launching new territories and products, building and defining roles, and creating successful, scalable customer programs. Currently at Slap5, a customer marketing platform, she leads the customer success function, along with education and advocacy, while maintaining and managing overall experience for her clients. And joining her will be Kim Plank, who is the Customer Success Marketing Manager at Acumatica. Take it away, guys.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So this is a perfect segue from what Megan was just talking about in regards to your programs. And we're talking about amplifying and really setting yourself up for success in regards to customer programs. And as BT mentioned in that intro, thank you. I have always really been a pioneer in my career, really joining companies, building a program, building a process, creating a region or a team. And I've built a lot of programs. Some have failed and some have succeeded. And they continue to grow today, even after I've moved on from those roles, which is exciting. And to start off with kind of one word of advice would be to really take risk, be that pioneer, and try new things when it comes to customer programs. So today in my role at Slap5, I'm using customer voice in managing a customer program where it's designed to be a two-way exchange of value. And I took a three-phased approach in rolling it out to help amplify its success. And part of the success of that and what's weaved into all of these different phases is executive buy-in. And with that first, let me click to the next screen here, first phase, that was strategy and plan. And that's where you get the feedback from your internal stakeholders and your top customers, naming the program, who's involved in it, what award will be a part of that, and just really making sure that you're setting up expectations to amplify its success. Then into phase two, you have the execution and rollout, making it fun, have some fanfare, social, blogs, videos, and including internal executives for the promotion and announcements. So the people that are invited are feeling that this is bought in. This is huge. Your executives are bought into this as well. And then phase three, this is ongoing. This never goes away in the role of an everyday CustomerX professional. Always being engaged with your program, innovating it, changing it. This is something that came up on a topic on that 12 o'clock session, keeping it fresh, keeping it alive. And even since launching, I've gone back to my execution phase, phase two, and changed that and made that a smoother experience, creating a form, creating an automated process that helps not only my customers joining my program, but also helps me manage it a lot easier and automates it. So it's really a perfect segue now to how I launched this 3-phased program. I have one of my customers as part of this program, one of my rockstar customers, Kim from Acumatica, where I really work with her on a daily, sometimes more basis. We talk quite often, and she was actually the first recipient of my Rockstar Award from Slap 5 from our program. So that's a picture of her, embarrassing her there a bit, but she's going to talk a little bit more about what kind of setting us up kind of like fireside chat a bit, but sharing a little bit more about amplifying your program and how it's set up for success. And I've partnered during this journey to make sure that it is a successful program and that she's looked as a rock star within her organization. So first, Kim, really what we'd like to hear, what are some challenges that you faced when building out your customer program?
Well, thanks, Dana. Thanks for inviting me to partner with you on this presentation. Yeah, I'm really, one of the biggest challenges is, doesn't matter if your organization is small, medium, enterprise level, we all have a whole variety of teams that sit within those organizations that we work from. And so we're going to be working with folks like inside sales, digital marketing, events teams, demand gen, product teams. And, hopefully you've launched that program and hopefully you've found that champion within that organization. But Dana asked me to share kind of a specific example. And one of the things that you'll want to keep in mind as you're amplifying your program is sometimes it takes a bit of muscle memory for those, for that to stick. So as much as you feel like you're amplifying it and keep getting that message out there, sometimes it takes a bit of exercise to do that. And one example I can share is, within our social media team, we do a lot of blogs, and fortunately, I worked really, really hard to make sure we're infusing customer voice in everything we do. And so in our blogs, we do include our customers quite a bit, and customer quotes, customer mention, and fortunately, there was a segment of time where I looked at our blogs and there was like 8 to 10 in a short window of time that were awesome, that included customer quotes or mention, but there was actually no customer voice to it. And so I actually went back to that social media team and the social media champion I'd worked with, and had to actually run through an exercise where we went back and looked at all those blogs and applied that customer voice. And now that team is the first one that's asking me, like, ahead of any blogs posting and as they're in progress, saying, hey, do we have a slap 5 piece to go in there? Do we have mobile prompt? Do we have customers saying this quote? And so making sure, not to forget that some of these teams is going to take a little bit of exercise to get that infused to into their side of the house.
That's great. And I love when you use the muscle memory analogy there. And what about achieving executive buy-in? How did that go?
Well, I've been hearing a lot.
It's ongoing.
About the executive buy-in for sure. And I can definitely share an example, not that any of you have any skeptical executive team members, right? I'm sure, but every once in a while you might get one. But I would say, if there's a way to get them involved, an example that we had is at the, onset with everything happening with COVID-19, I would say that we had a lot of customers who are coming to us and giving us really organic quotes that were really powerful and really impacting what we were doing about, how they were so thankful to have their cloud solution in place, and they can't imagine how they would have transitioned to work from home so seamlessly. And was telling the team about that, and then the CEO was like, well, I'm not sure, I never see those anymore. And so was able to actually send the mobile prompt right to my CEO and get him involved. And he actually, from at the time Acumatica, of course, HQ2, his guest bedroom, was able to try it out for himself. And by him doing that, and we were able to put that on the website and his social media, he became a champion, and he's actually, asking more customers to get involved and share their low-tech video, quotes. And I think a side benefit is that, that actually helps make your leadership team seem real and human. And at the time, really helped us with that feeling of, we're in this together. And so that don't be afraid to involve, and you may not get all the way to your CEO, but definitely feel free to let them try it out.
That's great. Yes, that's a great video you have of your CEO. I love it. And lastly, how are you measuring activity levels, and how are you really kind of deepening your engagement with your customers as we close this out?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, of course, deepening the engagement with our customers is something that's really key. And I would definitely recommend going through some type of an engagement scoring exercise. It's something I know that we're all busy, and we're all looking and making sure we're doing the activities. But by doing that, I was able to actually take out and go back and score 2019 and score 2018. And what you find is, or what we were able to find, is that it's not just about the number of activities that are happening, but also that level of the activity. And some of the higher engagement asks as we hit the pandemic and hit 2020, where we would normally, go for the jugular and go right for like a video or get that customer success story. I worried that maybe some of those we'd be challenged in that area. And so I worried that engagement may be reflected, negatively. But the exciting thing is that as we're able to get smaller bite-sized activities going with our customers, it's exciting to see that can have an impact too. And so by doing that engagement scoring, we were able to actually see that 2020, even at the halfway point, was trending actually, had already surpassed the entire 2019. And I think having that mobile prompt and that smaller activity, but at a higher volume, really helped us show that.
Great. Yes, that was an exciting activity to do, and being able to benchmark and find kind of those hidden gem customers that you didn't know really had a lot of engagement and didn't realize, and introduce those to sales was a great turnaround for that, I know, on your end.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Well, that concludes us with amplifying your customer programs, and we were able to really go through, once we mentioned, executive buy-in that's been through all of these sessions this week. I feel it keeps coming up. That is key to the success in your programs, and just making sure you're always sharing successes internally and sharing them externally. So that builds that relationship and that community with your customer program, but also keeps it strong internally. So I will hand it over to you, BT, for the next presenter.
Great. Thank you, Dana and Kim. That was wonderful. Thanks for sharing your expertise and experience with us. Next up, we have Nick Venturella presenting valuable opportunities for their benefit. Nick is a customer engagement operations manager at Ceridian. XOXO. I know that branded program. Nick learned the fundamentals of customer marketing as a creative professional and entrepreneur since 2002. Nick has amassed knowledge and experience in various sales, marketing, communication capacities that span across the music industry, SMBs, higher education, and the HCM software industry. Connect on LinkedIn with Nick. Nick, the mic is yours. Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction, and it's great to be here. I think I hope everybody's having a good time on the Friday before Halloween. Hopefully you have some candy or tricks or treats that you can eat while we're discussing
the tricks. The tricks are snow, Nick, up here in Boston. That's our trick.
Well, gotta have something, right? So anyway, thanks again. I do want to talk about the value of presenting opportunities to your customers. So you can see the slide, which is great. It's pretty simple and straightforward, and I kind of want to illustrate this, by going through a brief exercise with you. And you can see the bullet points on the screen, and really what I want to talk about is essentially why words matter when you're presenting different things to your customers, and particularly to get them involved and to get traction, to mobilize them to do things that will benefit your organization, but hopefully it benefits them as well. And that's really what we want to talk about here. So as you can see on screen, it talks about favors, and the big red stop sign there. We don't want to ask favors because they typically come across as something that benefits you and your organization more than the person you're asking to participate. And that ask, with quotes there, feels very forced, and sometimes can create an awkward situation where the person you're asking actually kind of feels obligated to participate or even annoyed. And if you have a small pool of, let's say, reference customers as an example, and you keep going back to the well every time you need a reference, those folks, especially if you're presenting it in a way where you're asking them to do one more favor for you, they're going to start to get burnt out and probably won't pick up the phone or answer emails anymore after a while. However, you contrast that with presenting things as opportunities and how it benefits your customer first and foremost, and always use that formula, always presenting the benefit to your customer first, then and empowering them with a choice to participate so they are in control of their participation. The ask is then a little bit softer, and it usually is received a little bit better. And so here's kind of how I want to illustrate that in this format, in our virtual summit conference format here. So I'm going to pretend, so I'm a company, I have a software company, let's say, and I'm presenting some sort of opportunity. However, we're going to first start with the favor. So just pay attention to how you feel. And I kind of scripted this out, so I'm going to read through this, but pay attention to how you feel when I ask you to do me a favor versus when I ask you to participate in an opportunity. So here it is. Do me a favor. Our company built this new software feature, and we need to make sure that it does exactly what it's designed to do. And we want you to test drive it, and we want you to give us some feedback. We're gonna give you a gift card as a reward for your time. So that's the favor I just asked of you. So think about that. Think about how you feel. Now, in contrast, think about it if it's presented this way, and this is more of an opportunity for you. So I have an opportunity for you to help shape the future of our software product to better meet your needs. Participants in our beta release will get early access to the new feature before anyone else, and your feedback will be incorporated into the final release to benefit not only you, but your peers as well who are using the program. This is your product designed to meet your needs. Without your keen insight, we won't know the best way to optimize the product for you and how you use it. Finally, should you choose to participate, we want to reward your time and thoughtful responses with a gift card. So if you'd be interested, please let us know. So it's really an example to just showcase how words can position what you're trying to have your advocates do on your behalf in a way that does actually benefit them. And you can put it in the chat, and you can say whether you thought the first asking of a favor appealed more to you, or the second one, more of an opportunity presentation. Anything? I'm looking at the chat real quick. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, the second. Okay, good. what I was hoping for. Anyway, if we advance the slide a little bit, give you a couple takeaways from this. And it's pretty simple, but it's pretty profound when you start to put it into practice. And if you start to pay attention, especially those of you who are using different platforms, so you are engaging your customers at scale, and a lot of times this is happening in an electronic sort of a post, like a social post kind of a way, or something like that, depending on the platform you might be using. Or even if you're arming CSMs with how to talk to customers about opportunities that come up, your language matters and their language matters, so train them. And so ask by positioning it for your customer's value first and your organization second. And it's okay to be transparent about that as well, to let them know exactly, hey, this is how it benefits our company, but here's really the benefit for you. A lot of people, there's a triple win, and we've kind of talked about this already in this presentation, where you engage the individual, recognize them, help them advance their career. They're doing well in their organization, benefits their employer, your customer as an account, and then your organization wins by association from their success. So that's all important. You want to keep that in mind. So that leads to this second takeaway here. So the opportunities that benefits your customers, you want to really focus on the intrinsic benefits. And there might be explicit benefits. There might be a gift card, reward, points, or whatever. But usually those are the short-term things. The intrinsic value is what keeps them coming back long-term. So that's what's going to build the trust, and that's what's going to help you build the relationship with them over time, more than those just transactional kind of rewards. And so the third point, just make sure the customer's in control. It's really important to empower your customers, and don't back them into a corner and ask them for a favor to where they feel obligated or annoyed or don't want to pick up the phone the next time you're calling. Empower them, give them a choice to participate, and if the value is positioned well enough for their benefit, they're more likely to want to participate. So that's what I have. If you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll try to answer them.
Thank you, Nick. And hey, Nick, can you do me a favor and hang around till the end for the Q&A session? Because I think we have a few coming through for you.
Sure.
Next up, we have Meredith Franks discussing engagement during the different stages of a customer's program maturity. Meredith is a seasoned marketing executive focused on how to delight, grow, and expand her clients' customer base. She has experience growing some of the world's best brands, including Black Duck Software, Synops, and Constant Contact, to name a few. Her approach involves using customer voice to lead growth initiatives. Meredith, the mic is yours.
All right, thanks, BT. Really great to see so many people that I've come across at various events or stages and working throughout the Boston life cycle here. Hi, everyone. If this is the first opportunity that we've had to talk, the one thing that I always lead with is customer voice is king. You heard BT say that. I think if you don't know your and you're not listening to your customers, it makes everything that you do harder. It makes renewal harder. It makes expansion harder. It makes advocacy really, really hard. So that's a big piece of what I do and how I approach programs as I run them. And one thing that I do want to say before we jump into the customer stages is I actually also advocate looking beyond just persona, which is often, you see like, oh, they're the DevOps manager or they're the, engineering person. It's very role-based. And I advocate thinking about it at a level up. So thinking about it from an archetype perspective, what is the goal of the customer? And how do you put them on a path to success? So thinking beyond that role base, things like one company I worked with, we identified the quick close customer has a very different path in the company than somebody who takes the normal sales cycle. So that quick close customer was somebody who came in and closed within a third of the normal sales cycle time. And they had a very expedited and specific path that they took. You could also look at things like, what's the use case of the product? Are they using it for security? Are they using it for some other purpose? But if we go to the first slide that we have, we're going to generalize all of that today. So, very general, looking at the customer life cycle, there are particular things that the customer is looking for. And if you haven't done that archetype, if you haven't done that deep dive into your customer, you can still start to get some knowledge out of them by focusing on each stage that they're in. And I have very generalized pre-purchase here. And that's normally a wholesale cycle, but because we're customer marketing, I'm going to pull all of that together and just talk about how we want to bring that customer experience, that little bit of what they can expect once they sign that deal, forward into the sales cycle. So what they're looking for at that stage is information, right? But how can we surprise and delight them throughout that? How can we give them information in a clever way? So we'll talk about all of that in a minute. When we look at adoption, activation, onboarding, it's all about building trust. And oftentimes, the person who signs the deal is not the person who's actually implementing the product, especially in a SaaS-based world. It gets handed down the chain. And so you're starting from scratch, and you really need to build trust with that person. And you're handing it from your sales team to your CS team or your onboarding team. And it's a whole new person that they now have to get to know. So how do you build trust? Here, it's all about frequent communication. How often are you talking with them? Are you handing them information before they need it? Are you anticipating the questions that they're going to ask? Can you surprise and delight them? I've used welcome packages in many different ways. And that's often an unexpected, like, oh, they care. They want to connect with me moment. You can talk about flagging support tickets at this stage. So anybody in the first 90 days or whatever your onboarding cycle is, making sure that support is taking care of them first and making them the white glove approach, even if down the line, they might get back into a regular queue. And definitely NPS at the 90-day mark. NPS is so important. Understanding how is their experience and then being able to build that customer journey to continue with them. Jumping over into renewal retention, it's all about deepening that relationship, and you better have been listening the entire time and asking for feedback and doing something, or at that 1-year mark, 2-year mark, 3-year mark, whatever your renewal point is, they're not going to feel like you care about them. And if you're only talking to them when you need money from them, it really hurts that relationship. So thinking about how to deepen that relationship, periodic access to teams, whether it's product engineering or, the C-suite in some cases, having that access occasionally is going to make them feel valued and make them want to stay with you. The regular communication, customer-only webinars, customer video blogs is something that I've seen huge success with, because you're starting to make the corporation feel less like a corporation and more like the people, the team that's supporting them. And that's really important. So giving those product managers a chance to do a video blog and talk about the latest features that are upcoming and how customer value or customer input has added value to that is also really important. That we heard you message should constantly be there. And, surprise and delight campaigns, we've heard it talked about across many sessions this week, definitely a huge piece of this. Jumping over into expansion and growth, it's about making their lives easier. And instead of letting your CSM or your salesperson hound, are you ready for expansion? Are you ready to add on this product or this package? Wouldn't it be great if you could predict when the customer wanted to have that conversation and approach them at the right time? It really helps out the entire company, and it makes the customer experience better. So this is where becoming best friends with your marketing ops team is really, really important. So you can look at trends, do a data set of all your recently expanded customers. What did they do in the 6 months leading up to it? And where are the commonalities? So one company I worked with, we saw that specifically for expansion, they would attend 2 customer webinars and start clicking on at least 2 of the links in customer newsletters for 3 months leading up to being ready for that discussion. And so you can automate all of this. You can flag in Salesforce. We were able to automatically put them into an ABM campaign that we had designed to bring them through and give them all the information to make the sales team life easier, and flag the sales team and say, this person is now ready, talk to them in X days. And it made the process much smoother, and it made our rates much more successful. And finally, referral advocacy. I know we've been talking about this a lot. That's where our payoff is. That's really where everything we want to achieve. If we do all these things, if we listen to the customer, we make them an advocate and we make them want to help us in our path. So really low-hanging fruit, look at people are already interacting, ranking a 9 or a 10 on your NPS score. Who's already talking to support teams, CSM teams, giving them feedback on the product? That's your low-hanging fruit. And then how do you grow more advocates? You nurture them, right? And I know there are a million sessions that are going to go into this, so I'm not going to get too deep into that. But making sure that you're putting them into campaigns. And at the end of the day, I always say, give, ask. And if you want to go to the next slide, I'm going to reiterate that one more time, give, ask. And if you want to go one more slide forward, how do you give? So there's a lot of different ways. And yes, you'll see swag a few times on this list because it is important. And it doesn't have to be swag. I've done corporate gifting. Megan, I know I saw the conversation about sustainability with you. That's definitely a piece of this. And we'll talk about how to not waste money on swag in a second. But looking at information and knowledge, like you heard me talk about videos, that's key. Access to the C-suite, the product team, things like that. Making sure you're giving them the knowledge that they want along the journey so that they can build their own path. Ask their opinion often and ask again. NPS is a huge, huge thing. And, you know, I think it's really important to do that, but not only just ask for the information, act on it. So one company I worked with, we were actually able to increase the NPS 10 percentage points in a year, which is crazy, by not just asking for NPS, but then putting together a cross-functional team, getting the C-suite together, building out the projects based off customer feedback, doing something about it, and then communicating back to the customers, we heard you. You asked for these features, we're delivering. So that's a really important thing to do. There's also surveys you can do after, you know, support tickets, et cetera, all of that great stuff. And then customer only events, make them feel special, make them feel included, make them feel part of the inside team. And you can get really far there. And then just touching onto the swag, if you want to jump to the next, I get a lot of questions here. So get creative with what you do. The first thing you see on the left was actually a box that we did at the pre-purchase stage. The whole message was wishing you a bright future. And we were able to get the average conversion from prospect to meeting from a 4% to a 17%. We saw a huge engagement because it surprised them. It was a different way. It showed them that we think about prospects the same way we do customers. So that was a campaign that was hugely successful. These other two that you see here are welcome boxes that we did. They both elicited huge numbers of calls directly to the CSM, thanking them for welcoming them to the family. That's what the card said. And of course, I have a great vendor who handwrites the cards for me and signs for the CSM. So everybody thinks the CSM did this themselves. And that's a great way to start that relationship off fresh. So using swag in really creative ways, but at the right moment. And then just the last couple examples before I finish up on the next slide. So renewal boxes. We did this prior to starting the renewal conversation, looking forward together to a bright future. Again, we were able to get the renewal rate from 90 to 97%, and it's not entirely based off the boxes because there was a lot of other changes we were making, but it really did help them feel like we cared and we were paying attention and we weren't just talking to them when the money was happening. And then thanking advocates. These are two great examples, kind of the virtual cup of coffee since we can't be there in person. That went over really well. And then for a really huge ask like the Gartner Magic Quadrant in this instance, we actually gave them personalized mugs that had been embroidered on the leather sleeve with their initials. So it wasn't the typical like completely branded swag. It was actually something personal to them. And we had 3 of the 10 people we sent this to actually reach out and say, this was such a nice gift. You know, we would love to do more with you. So again, it's just appreciating them, thanking them after the fact, used in a very strategic way. Otherwise, you're just throwing money out the door if you just send t-shirts for everything. So really thinking about it and getting creative. So it doesn't have to be expensive either. I've done limited edition stickers. I've done fireside chats for 10 people with the CEO. So get creative. Think about what that customer wants at that point in their journey and meet them there. So that's what I've got today. I would love to chat with anybody. I always like talking customer marketing. So connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to have conversations. And Barbara, I'm going to send it back to you.
Thank you, Meredith. I love your ideas. Those are great examples. I love the rubber ducky. That was super. Next up, we have Crystal Anderson discussing redefining customer marketing, new rules of engagement during an unpredictable environment. As Director of Customer Marketing at Invoca, Crystal Anderson focuses on creating and implementing a customer lifecycle communication program that delivers maximum value to the customer community with the end goal of increasing customer satisfaction, customer retention, and long-term growth. Based in California, Crystal has 13 plus years of B2B SaaS experience from previous marketing positions with Logic Monitor and Citrix. During her free time, however, Crystal enjoys traveling and volunteering. A fun fact is she's been volunteering for the American Red Cross for 15 years. Crystal, the mic is yours.
Thanks, Barbara. It's great to be here with everyone today and learning from some of the top industry leaders. And right now, basically what I'm going to be walking through is how my team redefined customer marketing at Invoca and the new rules of engagement we applied during this time, and show the success we had with those tactics. With this unpredictable environment, obviously, we've all had to pivot. And let's face it, this time will likely forever redefine how brands interact with customers. And it's so incredibly critical to become more customer-centric by researching and understanding your customers' new problems caused by this time that we're living in, whether that's fear of the unknown, fear of the future, isolation and social distancing, and financial constraints. So for a brand to be able to transition to a new way of doing business during these unusual times, you have to adjust your strategies to address the new wants and needs. So next slide. I'm going to walk you through how we created basically a new customer-centric marketing strategy from our pre-pandemic strategy. Building a customer-centric matrix like this is actually going to help address your customers' new wants and needs and reevaluate how you engage with them. So starting from that first column, we pivoted. We're going to spend a lot of time on this slide, and I'm going to try and get through it very fast. We can talk about it at the end. But the first column, we pivoted from obviously building the one-on-one relationships during on-sites and conferences where we could all sit down and shake hands, go to dinners, to the new virtual world, where while that still works for customers that you have a relationship with already, it's a bit harder to build and connect authentically through a conference call. So we address these new fears and social isolation and physical distancing by humanizing our engagement, even more so than we had before. We basically reached out to every customer for coffee dates on Invoca, and it didn't necessarily have to be about the platform and service. What we found were that people were so eager to make a human connection during lockdown that the mere act of us checking in on them, proactively seeing how we could help them be more efficient at their jobs, reporting, really made the difference and sold them on the renewal and upsell, simply based on the fact that our team went above and beyond with putting the customer first. We humanized it. So what activities did we actually take to achieve this? This meant sending them surprise breakfast deliveries through Uber Eats and contactless delivery. No, not Starbucks gift cards, everyone. Actually bring it to them. Make it feel like we're going and sitting down and doing an actual coffee date. For customers who we found out actually had COVID, we sent them dinners to help their families out during this stressful time. We actually set up peer meetups so that they could hear what others were experiencing in their industry, how they were overcoming challenges everyone were facing at the same time, and the potential trends they were seeing. These were actually moderated by our CEO and also became the source for quotes, blog posts, industry trend analysis. So it's a win-win all around. And we ramped this up quite fast. We were quick, agile. It all happened within 1 week of lockdown. So you've got to be able to pivot super fast. We also began to create extremely targeted virtual events based on region, a virtual roadshow, if you will. We called it the Invoca Connect series because the goal was to allow people to connect in their own region and expand their network in their city. So not a large webinar open to thousands of people, very highly targeted. We highlighted a customer speaker in that region who they could tell their story and how they were working through the pandemic. So for these events, we actually sent everyone lunch, anyone who registered, and allowed for open video and mics for networking. So it was more like a lunch and learn community style. Our attendance rate for these events were about 90%, and drop off was less than 4%. So these more intimate, personalized events had one of the highest returns for us, which I'll share on the next slide. What we learned is that it is critical to enable your customers to connect virtually with your team, with each other. Being in this dynamically changing environment should sharpen your focus, whether that's region specific, topic specific, campaign specific, or even industry specific. So this is going to enable your team to be super agile. This takes us into the next column of proactive response versus reactive response. And of course, all of us want to be proactive, right? But in this day and age, you have to be 100% proactive to thrive. And what our team did was identify our top customers in each industry by pulling platform data and analyzing the trends. And we basically categorized which industries had experienced extreme fall in demand and would need to urgently adapt versus industries with rising or consistent demand that would eventually need to adapt, but at a much slower pace. And so there were obvious trends such as healthcare customers who were being inundated and seeing higher than normal demand, obviously, and others such as home services and retail that experienced extreme fall in demand at the onset and then a fast rising demand later as people were locked down and wanted to buy purchases for their home. We continue to track these trends over 5 months and adapt our strategies from this. So we created industry level content with data trends to help them benchmark and also begin to create industry crisis response or industry affected cadence management. And what this means is that we performed a thorough audit of our industries, and also through the one-on-one peer meetups, we heard directly from them and how they were being infected. And what we found was that healthcare, home services, and insurance were our top industries affected. So we pulled back on email nurtures for them, putting them in a nurture cadence of 1 per quarter instead of 1 per every other week. And you just want to make sure you are not part of the over communication problem. Ensure you are adjusting your strategies to what that industry is actually feeling from the pandemic. And then last but not least, you want to optimize your customer journey touch points. With all of the channel touch points consumers are being hit with today, there's now a much more complex process for the customer marketing journey. And you must optimize your journey touch points to include micro moments. This was really popular 5-10 years ago. It's even more so today because of the points of opportunity for your team to engage with customers in context, elements such as location and mindset. So what events are going on currently in different states? The recent activities and current environment, so like political, environmental, like the large fires this year, or even being in the midst of a pandemic like we are right now. So understand what drives and motivates your customers and support their needs before they even know they need it or ask for it. And all of these new actions and strategy obviously built the brand trust and loyalty, but the numbers we saw from this new highly personalized engagement were telling as well. So next slide. I'll just run through these success metrics. We actually increased our net new advocates as well as active engagement during this time. So even while decreasing our customer base by 9% and losing former active advocates, we still saw an overall 20% increase in active advocates this year, bringing us to a total of 81%. Our total demand attributed pipe was due to demand gen and customer marketing programs. Our top campaign for Q2, this was a number strictly for Q2, was the Connect series. That contributed to 16%, and that was our top campaign that quarter. We're still experiencing return on this, so I anticipate the number is higher today since we've last run this report. And in fact, we've seen virtual events have been our top performing campaigns. Our virtual customer conference last week, our registration shot up 402% from last year. So I'm sure we all want to see a 400% year-over-year increase. We also are on track for an almost 50% increase in engagement activities completed with customers from last year. And not only that, an 8% increase in account engagement. And I would attribute that to the new multiple offerings we had. We've also seen 118% increase in online reviews on G2, as well as a 21% increase in our overall NPS score. So we must be doing something right. And last but not least, I'll run through my takeaways. So show customers that you're just as loyal to them as they are to you, especially during this time. You want to prioritize that relationship building over transactional value. For the second one, obviously understand what drives and motivates your customers and support their needs. Relevance is the relationship accelerator. And the last one is a no-brainer. Obviously, customer marketing is empathy. Empathy builds those connections. Be honest and transparent and take from what is going on in your everyday life and get creative with campaigns. Is it back to school month? Are parents stressed and under a time crunch? Put together a quick care package and do a quick check-in to see if there's anything your team can do to help them be more efficient with your product or service. End of summer, put together a family package where you send them a movie and dinner gift card for the entire family to enjoy. And I'll just leave you with this, with what our team has personally learned during this time. It's not just to overcome the challenges during this time. You need to refresh your ways of engaging with customers to propel you forward with innovation. Now I'll hand that back to you, Barbara.
Great. Thank you, Crystal. Well, now we come to our Q&A portion of our presentation, and we do have a few questions that I need to scroll back up and check on. And Nick, I saw that someone asked if you would share your script on your ask. Thank you so much for sharing that. Everybody, please make sure that you copy that. Let's see, Megan, we have a question. What is your take on sustainability and customer gifting?
Hey, yeah. So whereas I am a huge supporter in the care packages and swag, and I think just to what Meredith said, where there's value and you can see that it will bring value back and you're not just spending money to send t-shirts. There is value in swag and care packages, but our team specifically has a sustainability goal that our overall organization has, and we're all working towards how can we find those opportunities over time to create less and less, or have less and less of a carbon footprint. And sometimes that means less swag. It means less t-shirts, maybe less gifts. And how can we turn that into something that might be a little bit more impactful too? Can we donate to a cause together? Or can we give you training credits? How can we maybe think a little bit differently about gifting, where it still brings value, it's unique, and then it also comes back to our sustainability goals?
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Crystal, we have a question for you. You spoke to pivoting your customer marketing strategy and new tactics to adapt to a new environment. Can you speak to the how to get executive buy-in with the new strategy and messaging that you created?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually put together an emergency response team with members from all the departments of CS, sales. We had to figure out a way to change our attention from new logos to retention. And so essentially, going back to your original business goals and trying to figure out how customer marketing is going to be helping with those retention goals. It was super easy to get exec buy-in. The CEO and our executives were all about the one-to-one peer meetups. So yeah, basically going back to your business goals and going back to your ROI and saying, how can we pivot and help with new strategies and new outreach to customers for that retention goal.
And I have a follow-up question here for you, Crystal. What were the budget differences between your pre-pandemic and your new strategy? Was the budget the same? Was it different? Were you saving?
Yeah, so I would say it increased. However, we did pull from other areas in the marketing department. So demand gen programs, the live events, that budget obviously shifted and we didn't need to spend all that money on site. So we moved that to our virtual events where we were ordering people lunch. Obviously, that's going to be a large budget. If for people who are like, I cannot do that, I don't have the budget, then just offer it to the first 200 people who register. You can still do something where it's still highly personalized and you're able to incentivize people for showing up and open up that communication. Definitely say, open up your mics, open up your cameras, have that for your virtual online webinars. Don't do webinars anymore. I hate that. Be personalized and do something like this where you're seeing everyone. So yeah, our budget increased slightly. I'd say probably about 25%, but a lot of it did shift from other departments.
Great, great. Well, we're just about at the end of our time here. I want to point out a couple of key takeaways that I jotted down. First, it's customer first. Always keeping your customer first and keeping them in mind. So it's not about you. It's about your customer, keeping them first. Build a relationship by giving them information and access, giving them what they want and they need. Another one is, well, do yourself a favor and don't ask for favors. You want to position your ask in a way that is appropriate and flattering and strategic, and supports keeping your customer first and building on that relationship. And it's important to know the status of your customer. Your individually, are they a parent? Or industry-wise, is their industry going through a lot of stress right now? So it's important to know your customer both individually and the industry that they're going through. And that is it. So I am now going to pass the ball back to Jeff.